Hello there, my name is Martin Henley. This is the Effective Marketing Content Extravaganza. And if you're new here, you couldn't possibly know that I am on a mission to give you everything you could possibly need to be more successful in your business, providing, of course, what you need to be more successful in your business is to know more about and be implementing more enthusiastically, more efficiently, and more effectively sales and marketing in your business, which is, of course, what you need. You need more customers more profitably. And if you hang around here long enough, everything you need to do that will become available to you. And let's not pretend there's lots here to help you with that already. Let's pretend there's not. There is. So what goes on here is I'm here giving you everything I know about sales and marketing. That's the What the series that happens on a Monday. On a Tuesday, I pull in anyone I can find with experience to share that's going to be useful to you if you are looking to be more successful in your business. That's Talk Marketing on a Tuesday. On a Wednesday, Melanie Farmer comes through every other Wednesday, and we look at the marketing news and speculate wildly about what it might mean for you in your business, in your marketing career, in your marketing life. And on the other Wednesday, I review so you don't have to. On a Thursday, we are here thinking out loud. And on a Friday, we are responding, reacting to the very best and the very worst of marketing content on the internet. So if that sounds interesting and useful, please tell me it does. We're only here to be interesting and useful. Why not take a second now to like, share, subscribe, and comment, because that will give us the motivation to continue on this epic journey. So if you're catching this on the day we go live, it's a Thursday, which means we are thinking out loud. And by we, I mean me and the wonderful Russ Johns. Good evening, Russ Johns.
Have a wonderful day wherever you happen to be. So thank you for having me on.
I so dig you and your positive energy, and your kindness is cool, and your smiles are free. I dig all of this. This is why I've welcomed you so warmly into my life, Mr. Johns.
Well, you know, we haven't met in person, but that's still a possibility, right?
As soon as I make millions, I'm coming around your house, man. As soon as I make millions, I will be on the first flight.
Deal. Sounds like it. I want to get out of town. I think I need to come and see you. That's well, what it's
you
about.
Are more than welcome. You are more than welcome.
Yeah.
You let me know when you're coming. We will roll out the red carpet for you here.
Excellent.
What
do we got happening today?
Today, I've got a busy day. I'm talking to you. I'm doing the news with Melanie Farmer immediately after I'm finished with you. And I'm off to do some work tomorrow. So I need to make sure that I am ready. I need to cut out some logos and things. I need to buy some socks. I need to buy some pants. You know, all busy. And what about you? It's the end of your day there, isn't it?
Yes, it is the end of my day. And I still have some things that I'd like to get off my plate. But it's been a very productive day. And this week has been incredibly busy. And I really love the opportunity to take a break, change my mindset, and hang out with you, and talk a little bit about some of the things we love to talk about: marketing, media, a couple of reviews, some of the things that we're going to be discussing today, and what might that
artificial intelligence we're going to be discussing today. So this is going to be interesting. But we like to start these conversations with a bit of a boast, with some positivity, with an achievement. Oh. Is there something you're achieving recently that you'd like to share with us?
Well, I did a rookie mistake today that I'm gonna leave everybody with, so they can avoid this same mistake. Is that I went live. I did a live stream today. I do a show every Wednesday called Love My Dub, and I shared a screen without sharing the screen, and did this presentation, which made no sense because I was talking through a screen I was sharing and not sharing. So I'm going to I'm going to redo that. But it was live. So when you're live, you have these opportunities to not be perfect. And that's okay. You just need to capture it, move on, and just enjoy the ride, because this is a moment in time that we're going to survive and thrive through, and keep moving.
Excellent. So the boast is, even yourself with experience of streaming live hundreds of times, with your experience of offering advice around streaming, you can still make a mistake, but you can come through it. That's a really nice, friendly boast. I think my boast is that I've had a haircut and a beard trim before I actually needed it. Normally it goes completely insane before the penny drops for me that I need. And my barber came and actually cut my hair at my house. So that's my boast. That's what I've achieved since the last time we spoke.
I like to
Okay,
keep mine an extra wide part. So
good. Excellent. Okay, cool. So where we are today is we are thinking out loud. So this for me is, it's interesting because, I'm talking to all these, well, I've spoken now to 101 different people for Talk Marketing. I'm reacting to content all the time. So what happened is I feel like I've put myself in front of the tsunami of content, which is really interesting and cool, but not particularly useful unless you kind of make it useful. So the part of the point of this thinking out loud thing is that I put some of the things that I'm aware of together, so that maybe when I come to find a use for these things, I come back and they're all in one place. So it's really entirely selfish for me. It's like, these are things that have dropped on me. Let me put these in one place and think about them a little bit, so that, if it comes up in the future where I need to make use of these things, somebody says to me, can you come and talk to us about artificial intelligence? I can go, I had that conversation with Russ Johns. So artificial intelligence today is, we're thinking out loud. But the point of this is that there are no conclusions. So we're not teaching anyone anything. We're not suggesting anything. There's absolutely nothing like that going on. This is literally thinking out loud. So artificial intelligence, where are we? It's March 2023. Chat GPT went live in December 2022, has changed the world. I think this is the biggest step change we've seen in the internet, probably
since it launched.
Since when?
Since the internet launched.
Yeah,
it's the quickest growth. It's the quickest growth path that from any other app that's ever launched in the past.
So I think previously it was Angry Birds, wasn't it? Or one of those games they say the quickest to 1 million users. So ChatGPT got there really quickly. I mean, we had Web 2.0. So maybe this is actually what we're seeing now, is the advent properly of Web 3.0, where what was one? One was the information was published, available to all of us. 2 was you can engage.
Yeah.
3 is what? The internet does it for you. I don't know. Well, but I think so.
We'll have to unpack it soon. Because, in the early days, everybody was just converting their paper brochures to a digital format to share.
Yes.
And that's long since passed. And, now we're actually merging into where we're actually creating things live and getting some feedback. But
yes,
I'm intrigued by this whole process of, Web3 and virtual, the virtual ecosystems and some of the things that are taking place. But AI is increasingly more curious to me as far as being able to understand what is going to be the impact. Martin, we haven't really dove into this too much, but the reality is that, like you said, it's inconclusive. I don't think the verdict's out, and some people are concerned, and some people are extremely excited, and all the marketers are in there spinning their threads saying, "Hey, this is how you make $1 million now," and so it's
okay.
Interesting.
So, which camp are you in? Are you concerned or are you excited?
I am curious and reserved. I've been using Chat GPT and in conjunction with some other AI tools to use as a foundation for content. And I think if we allow it to take place in its current format, it's going to quickly turn into beige, plain vanilla content that everybody's creating because they're not taking the steps to enhance the foundation. They're just taking the content and placing it out into the world, and it's not current, it's not accurate all the time, and it's not necessarily adding value to the community.
Yes. Okay, good. And I'm with you. I think the danger, like with all of these things, is the way I'm seeing it is, so for example, I did some work with some aluminium stockholders for 15 years, and you cannot conceive of how difficult it is to produce content about aluminium for 15 years. it is incredibly difficult, and that's actually how it unraveled in the end, as we really came to the end of what we can talk about with aluminium. But it seems to me now that ChatGPT 100% can do that job. You need 1,000 words on aluminium 2014 round bar. ChatGPT will give that to you. So I think that whole raft of copywriters who are playing at that level, although I never managed to find one in 15 years, are essentially going to be challenged in terms of this will become a real threat to them. But that is the most vanilla of content that you need to produce, the most necessary and the most vanilla. And what's the point of that? So those people are going to be challenged immediately. And that's going to be the benefit for marketers. You don't have to go without copy now because ChatGPT will give it to you in a second. So there was that.
Yeah.
To bring you up to speed, this isn't the first time we've spoken about artificial intelligence on the channel. So I'll let you know recently what's gone on. When ChatGPT launched, we spoke about it in the news. We kind of showed people what it does. To your point, I think it's doing ChatGPT specifically does important, useful work as a foundation for your content creation. So, for example, if I wanted to write a book, I would 100% go to Chat GPT and say, what are the leading books on this subject? Who are the leading thinkers? What are the best quotes on this subject? What are the events that go on? What are the most important ideas? And do all of this work and then start to engage in that content. The danger, I think, is people say, okay, I want to write a book and I'm just going to get Chat GPT to do it, because it's just putting this content from the internet. It's like there's not. So where I've got to is I'm using it as a research tool, but I always include in the prompt now, include sources. And then miraculously, it just gives you the links from where these things came from, which makes it incredibly useful for me because now I can cite those sources and I can engage and immerse myself in those. So that was the first thing that we did. The second thing that we did with Jim is we reacted to the Bing CEO coming out because they incorporated it into Bing, and it looked like a train smash. It really was awful. Like, it was asking for recommendations for where do I go for, I don't know what it was, but it was sending them to towns that didn't exist, and obviously those towns didn't have outlets of these pizza stores or whatever. It was an absolute disaster. And then the other thing we looked at on the news that came up was apparently these AIs are getting very aggressive with people, like super aggressive with people. So it's like being trolled by the intelligence of the internet. So this chatbot is telling you you're a devil, you're a demon, you're a bap, ba bap, ba bap, ba bap, ba bap. You know what I mean? So that is an alarming progression for me, where people seem to be wanting to have conversations with these computers. Like, for me, it's a prompt. Do this, do that. But people are using it in other ways, like Jim is using it in other ways. And he's saying, imagine you are my marketing manager, and would you please do this for me? Do you know what I mean? It's like, I don't feel like that's necessary unless this AI is the most insecure and most capable intelligence ever, and it is going to assault people. So that's where we've got to the channel.
Yeah, and however, that's all true and accurate. However, it's only ChatGPT is only updated until 2021.
Yes.
So anytime you want to create something that is considered a piece for thought leadership or future thinking or vision, it's outdated as soon as you print it out. And yes. So you have to use it as only a research tool, like you said, and only as a reference to something that you can actually use some critical thought with and actually develop some expanding ideas from that content. And it's really, people have to frame it in a way that actually is useful. And when you're actually putting out that prompt and you're saying, hey, act as if you're working like this, that's when you get the nefarious results back, is because you've asked it to abuse you. It's like,
yes,
well, you asked, that's exactly what you asked for. So it's going to go out and find, the responses that you prompted it to. And this term, prompt engineering, is becoming real popular in this arena. And I just, it's kind of crazy. It's like, well, it's not really engineering, and you are creating prompts. And the better the prompt and the better the information that you provide, it will return more deliberate, like give me 5 reasons to create a live stream or a podcast or something like that. And it will spit out some relatively accurate information. But, check your facts and check your information and say, is this valid for me? Is this what I want to put out? Is this what I want to produce? And then go from there, because it's not always rainbows and unicorns when it comes to Chat GPT.
It's not always rainbows and unicorns. In fact, it's never rainbows and unicorns. There is always a yang to the yang. And this is where I've got to in my thinking, which is where I've become aware of the very real and the very immediate threat of this thing, artificial intelligence. So that's kind of where my thinking has got to, and that's what I want to have a conversation about today. I mean, we've got to where my thinking has got to. So I've got some stuff to share. Do you want to see some of the stuff that I've got to share?
Let's
maybe
dive in.
Okay, so let's dive in. Okay, so this is Justin Hawkins. I don't know if you know Justin Hawkins.
Yep,
Justin Hawkins is the... You look like from your beard like you would know Justin Hawkins, to be fair. This is a phenomenal YouTube channel that Justin Hawkins has been put together. He's here every day talking about stuff, responding to music. It's really cool and really nice. But this is something that he looked at, which is Nick Cave. You will know Nick Cave, also the artist. And this is what he said. So let's have a play of this and see what he's saying.
Yeah.
Justin Hawkins rides again. I've got a woman. She rules my house with an iron fist.
I didn't mean to play all of this, but it's nice. I did have it primed at the point that he started talking, but he's going to start talking very soon, so it will be fine.
Yeah. Okay, so Nick Cave says Apocalypse is on its way after getting an AI track written apparently in the style of Nick Cave. He called the AI-generated song a grotesque mockery of what it is to be human. This occurred after a fan named Mark, hi Mark if you're watching, sent the singer-songwriter a track written by the software Chat GPT. I've never heard of this before. I'm aware that I've seen some sort of visual art that's been created by artificial intelligence, and I think I saw one that was somebody typed in Justin Hawkins as a helicopter pilot. We'll include that here. It's probably not. It's not. I mean, obviously, it looks a bit like me if I was a helicopter pilot. I mean, it does exactly what it says on the tin. But I suppose it's slightly different if you're writing a.
Yeah, so this is the point, is like, this is the point, like, that's Justin Hawkins' likeness. Do you know what I mean? Does he not have some, he's not saying it right now, but that is his likeness. So does everyone now have a right to Justin Hawkins' likeness? But let's see what Nick Cave had to say. This is genius.
Song, or is it? Nick Cave addressed the viral artificial intelligence tool in his newsletter, saying that dozens of fans had already contacted him with songs written by the popular software. The first thing that Nick Cave said: suffice to say, I do not feel the same enthusiasm around this technology. I understand that Chat GPT is in its infancy, but perhaps that is the emerging horror of AI, that it will forever be in its infancy, as it will always have further to go, and the direction is always forward, always faster. I was also watching Coraline today, that Neil Gaiman adaptation. It's a great movie. I've seen it a million times with my daughter. But there's a bit in there and it always makes me think about the current times, when her father is trying to write something for the gardening catalogue that they're preparing, and she accidentally switches off the electricity to the whole house, and the word processing computer just goes down. And I was thinking about that, and I was thinking, well, if you wanted to stop a computer, that isn't how you do it nowadays, because there'd be stuff in the cloud, there'd be a battery that you'd have to hack into, and nothing could actually stop the forward march or times. The arrow? It's not like, it's a bit like Time's arrow, isn't it? It's forever in perpetual forward motion, and the technology is just exponentially improving to the point.
Right, so I
point
don't know
where
if we've heard
it can
the bit
even
that I wanted
simulate
to-
a lyricist like Nick Cave. It can never be rolled back, says Nick Cave, or slowed down as it moves us forward. As it moves us toward a utopian future, maybe, or our total destruction. Who can possibly say which? Judging by this song in the style of Nick Cave, though, it doesn't look good, Mark. The apocalypse is well on its way. This song sucks. I wish I
Right,
could
and he
hear the
goes-
song. It'd be great.
So he goes into like the details of it. I would thoroughly recommend that people go
To
and
get an idea.
check it out. Sorry, that's on the wrong window. That should be on that window. So the point of this for me is it's interesting because who's the guy who wrote *Sapiens*? Neural something. In his follow-up, Homo Deus, which is like humans as gods, he's kind of talking about where we're going and with populations and stuff. And he talks about how, countries needed hundreds of thousands of people for wars historically. Well, those wars aren't happening in that way anymore. And then we needed hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people for industrialization. Well, industrialization is increasingly becoming automated, so we don't need people for that anymore. So he's talking about this idea of kind of depopulation, but also de-employment, where people aren't going to be employed anymore. And we've heard people talking about universal basic incomes and all these things. It's a horror show. But what he did say, I think, I haven't read it again recently, is that the people who are safe, like not drivers of vehicles, like because there's going to be automated vehicles. It's Yuval Noah Harari is the guy that I'm talking about. He seems to have been co-opted by the World Economic Forum recently, which is also a bit of a concern. But what he said, I'm sure, is that what will be safe is the creative stuff. Like computers won't be able to create. And then it seems to me that the first meaningful shot across the bows from artificial intelligence is creativity. Immediately, like if Nick Cave is threatened as a creative, potentially one of the most creative people on the planet, then who isn't? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who isn't? So this is a concern to me because...
Well, does it create more fear and anxiety? Or does it create more curiosity to see what will actually end up? Because going back to our conversation with using AI as a foundation versus an outcome, I think it's really important for the creatives to decide, how will I use this tool to enhance my ability to create something amazing? Or do I need this tool to create something amazing just to keep up with the current values and trends in music, art, literature, these kind of creative processes that we all enjoy. So,
Yes.
So what's the direction it's going to take? That's the question.
For creatives maybe like you and I, but for creatives like Nick Cave, for like proper creatives like Nick Cave, is what we are saying is that Chat GPT is a necessary component in any creative process now. Like, has it in 3 months become that important that you can't even consider being creative without engaging with this tool? Because that also, it seems to me, is a little bit scary.
Well, think about the recording industry going from tape to digital, and some of the tools that, the purist would say, digital ruined vinyl, or the CD ruined tape, or all of these comparisons. It's before and after, and the way I look at it from a creative perspective is it's another tool in the toolbox that's incredibly powerful, and depending on how we use and leverage this will determine the outcomes that we produce. And so you could actually look at it from I'm not going to touch that because I'm a purist, or you can actually say, let's see what we can create with this, because I want to use this soundtrack and I want to create something that hasn't been created in the past. And I want to be able to explore the depths of the research that we hold in our database and discover something new and exciting. It's like scrolling through the records in the record store looking for samples. It's, and I kind of see it the same way, and not in a fearful direction, because, what we create will determine what is created. And I think that's kind of how we have to think about it in the future. And depending on how it's handled and how it's managed and how it's built will determine the long-term outcomes.
Yes. So maybe digital over tape, or digital over tape, video over radio. I think we don't know, and we're not coming to any conclusions today. So that's the useful part. We're not. I would compare it more to, so there've been all of these step changes in all of these industries as the internet rolls through our lives. The comparison, the negative comparison would be, for me, the internet as distributor of music, because I think that has had a overall net negative effect, where now also I'm old, so I'm looking through this lens. It feels to me like the last good decade for music was the 90s, which is the decade before the internet happened. We haven't had a David Bowie, we haven't had a T-Rex, we haven't had a Rolling Stones, we haven't had a Beatles, we haven't had a George Michael, we haven't had a movement, we haven't had a rave scene, we haven't had a ska scene, we haven't had a new romantic scene. The way that the change in distribution has materially affected, I think, clearly the way we experience music, but the way that music has been produced, because now it is, I think well, my dad would have said this to me in the 80s anyway, when it clearly didn't all sound the same, but it all sounds the same. So we've produced a machine that now only allows for the production and distribution of the same kind of, really, I think, ineffective music. So that for me would be the danger. I mean, don't get me started on the dangers of digital. No one's got lost for 30 years, and I think getting lost was an amazing thing that we've lost. Nobody's been out for 15, 20 years since they've had mobile phones. You phone somebody, they have to pick it up or they have to ignore you. In the 80s, you'd phone, they'd say, no, he's out, and that's the end of the story. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think there are costs to these things. The issue for me is about, the issue for me is
think about this. Think about this, Martin, though, is, as you recall, you mentioned the 80s and the 90s for music. However, think back a little bit further and the way disco interrupted the rock scene, and how it came through an evolution of, this disco scene, and then it ended, and then we went into the 80s and, we evolved out of each segment. Do you think that this, the current status of music will do the same thing that happened with disco? Do you see things changing and evolving and getting more creative as a result of the potential strange? Or do you see more of the same, plain vanilla,
I just
beige,
see it all being the same. If I go back into music 60 years, so there was, oh my God, what was it called? There was, so for example, there was rock and roll in the 50s in the United States, and that came out of jazz and blues before that. And in Jamaica, what was going on is they had rock steady, and that split into ska and reggae. And in the 70s, we had rock happened, and at the same time, disco happened. And as we got into the 80s, then disco evolved into, acid house, which evolved into rave. But at the same time, the true romantics thing was going on. Oh, we had punk in the 80s, which was in the 70s, which was and then coming into the 90s, we had Britpop in the UK, and we had grunge coming out of America. So we had movements, actual movements, everyone is thinking differently and dressing differently and dancing differently because of the music. Now, it might be that I've just been completely removed from that whole experience, but But I'm not aware of there being a movement since the 90s, you know.
Not like it was.
Not like it was.
Yeah.
No.
But if you listen to the top 100 on Spotify, you know, it sounds very similar. Last time I checked, I haven't checked recently, but it's really, like you said, it's becoming more of the same, more homogeneous.
Yes.
And maybe that's because, you know, streaming is more popular. So the streams that we hear are fed by the algorithm that is not diversity. It's more, okay, what's the top ones that we could get to the top of the stream and who's popular now? And we're going to feed more of that popular to the rest of the masses.
And I would argue with my cynical hat on, which is my favorite hat, that this is what, like, corporations don't like risk, you know, and so that's why it becomes more and more vanilla, is because they go with the tried and the tested, and they tweak it a little bit and they tweak it a little bit, and their machine keeps rolling. But what it doesn't deliver is the enormous value that it used to deliver to the world, which is we've got a movement on our hands. It's on the news. These kids are putting safety pins through their noses. What on earth is going on? You know, they're calling for the overthrow of the monarchy. God save the Queen, this fascist regime. You know, all of that is gone. And this, I think, is the negative, the net negative of the internet on music. And I would argue equally, since smartphones came through, not even smartphones, but camera phones, it killed the live music experience now, because unless you are in the front row, and even if you are in the front row, there are going to be a number of smartphones between you and the performer. So that idea of being in the moment, that idea of this is going to happen once and something weird is going to happen. You know, when I saw Primal Scream at the Reading Festival in 1994, and they brought on the lead singer of Depeche Mode, it blew our tiny minds. Do you know what I mean? Who could imagine that this could possibly happen? It happened, and we were there to see it, and none of us had a camera or a smartphone, you know? And so that is, whereas now, everyone would have recorded it, everyone would have known about it, everyone might expect it in the future. Do you know what I mean? So there is
It was a moment in time. It was a moment in time.
It was a moment in time, and you were there living that moment because you didn't have an option. You didn't have an option to record it for posterity unless you had tens of thousands of pounds of camera equipment. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You were there. Like you didn't have a video recorder. Can you imagine having a video recorder in 1994? Didn't exist.
Well, and that's like doing live. That's like doing a live broadcast with radio in the early days. You know, when I was in radio earlier, it took a truck and an engineer and, you know, circuits and services, backhaul, and all of this infrastructure just to get a remote broadcast from a location to the studio, and then turn around. You know, 10 years ago, I was live streaming high school varsity sports over AM radio using internet equipment.
Yes,
and it was just like, okay, this is now possible. This blew my mind. It's like, wow, imagine what we could do. And I've been doing it ever since. And that's the reality of where we are. Is it's evolving, but I still think, going back to your original question of where is it going, is the idea that it's still going to depend on creatives being more creative than the technology that exists. And I think that's the only way we're going to get out of this world of beige music and more of the same.
Okay, cool. Right, I want to show you this because because there's a yin and a yang. There's an opportunity. There's a little blue case here. Where is it? Here. That's my little mobile recording studio. It's got 3 cameras in it and 2 tripods and a set of microphones. And I can, wherever I find myself in the world, in a minute, be recording what would have passed for professional quality video, like as recently as 6 or 7 years ago, you know, with my phone, with 2 tripods, 3 lights and a microphone. You know, that's where I am. So there is that. There's a yin and a yang. So there's opportunity, but that's not where I am. Are you ready to experience something else? The next thing? Okay, cool. So this is the next thing I've found. This is a video entitled "Why Artists Are Fed Up with AI Art." And I have got this primed. I hope this is in the right place. I might need to move it a little bit.
All of which was collected from their house.
Wait. Right.
correlations to each other to produce a final result that looks acceptable. That's a very simple generate that content.
Okay, wait. Let's start this guy from the beginning.
All right.
Hey guys, it's time we talked about this. So if you've been on social media recently, you've probably seen a lot of talk about AI generated art. In order to understand the severity of the issue surrounding AI art, we have to understand how AI works. When an AI creates a piece of art, it doesn't generate that content out of thin air. Instead, there needs to be an input in order for there to be an output. In the big picture, machine learning companies such as Stability AI generate profits from high quality media. And the creation of this media depends entirely on training their AI on a specific dataset. These images are made by assembling visual data that have statistical correlations to each other to produce a final result that looks acceptable. That's a very simplified explanation, but that's the gist of how AI systems work. All you gotta know is in order for that image to be generated, there has to be a dataset, and that is where the problem comes in. In these datasets, there exists billions of copyrighted images, of artworks, of photographs, of people, all of which was collected from the internet without the consent of the intellectual property owner. My personal artwork that I share on my Instagram page has been used to train AI models. And chances are, if you've shared your work online or even images of yourself, your house, your environment, you might have been included in these datasets. And if you guys want a really great in-depth look on this topic, I recommend Steven Zapata's video, which I'm gonna link in the description below. The problem here is your artwork and my artwork, the moment we share them online, they are opted in to the system. If your work so much as exists online, it will be found and it will be used in a piece of AI art. And we as artists are not being protected. This is genuinely an industrial scale violation of each and every one of our rights.
This is an industrial scale violation of each and every one of our rights. So what he goes on to say is, we can't watch the whole 13 minutes of the video because it's long. But what he's saying basically is, if artists hadn't submitted their work to the internet, then AI would not be able to do this. And because it's basically using that art as data sets. And the danger is that this is an industry. Like, art is an industry. There are people who make their livings from producing art, and they are going to be able to do that less and less, because what he goes on to say is that people are using prompts that include the artist's name. So produce me a piece of art like they did with Nick Cave in the style of this particular artist. Now, what I'm seeing is these prompts are becoming more sophisticated, but I still don't think there's very much skill involved in coming up with a prompt. You know, you are literally putting in 8 or 9 or 10 words, whereas these people have invested their lives in being the artists that they are. So if I can say, produce me a piece of art depicting a whatever it is that I'm interested in the style of this artist, which is photorealistic, on a 35mm lens with a 1.8 aperture, with a thingy sunset, in this particular color scheme that actually matches the interior of the room that I want to hang the piece of art, then why on earth would you ever engage an artist ever again? You know, if you can do particularly that thing completely for free, completely for free. So my issue then with artificial intelligence right now is, we don't need to predict the future. We can see the present is these AI services are coming after artists now. It's happening right now. And it is industrialization, because it is services like Midjourney or Chat GPT basically leveraging the entire capacity of the internet to monopolize an industry which was historically feeding the families of artists. Discuss.
So let me ask you the question. I see this parallel very clearly based on this conversation right now. Is how is this different than when Napster launched?
And I would say it's not different enough, and that would be my issue. Because Napster was the beginning of the end for music distribution. That was the issue. And if you listen to Justin Hawkins or recording artists, They can't make money through the distribution of music anymore. They simply can't. They make all of their money by being on tour, and we know what's happened to the live music experiences. It's got worse. Yeah. So, and then we're seeing now through the distribution of ticket sales, through whatever those services are called, that's getting completely screwed up, where people are having to spend thousands of dollars to see their favorite artists, which means that you and I aren't seeing our favorite artists because I'm not going to spend thousands of dollars to see anyone, you know? So again, it's this vanillaization. Sorry?
This goes back to your favorite conversation, your favorite topic of corporate globalization and some of the things that are taking place as a result of these super large organizations taking over industries. Right?
Okay, let's just check in. You didn't ever doubt that we were going to stray too far away from my favorite conversation.
No. That's what I love about these conversations is these are all connected. These are all connected topics. These are all related. And it's important that we talk about this because one of the things that we have as humanity is we have this amazing opportunity right now that has never happened in the history that we know about, that all of these things are coming together to where we are the producers, we are the creatives, we are the opportunity to produce, promote, and actually amass this idea of what we're being able to produce for the communities we live in and we support. However, all of the tools that we're using are becoming narrower and narrower. It's like using one brush for artwork. You know, when is it going to get to the point where it's just black and white art hanging on the wall because it's all the same? It's that concept of what is going to create the difference versus the same. And once we decide, because like you said, the corporate organizations don't want to risk anything. They want to serve more of the same because that works. When was the last time, you went to a McDonald's and they were serving, something different? Never. So this idea that it's all the same and the ecosystem and the AI and the tools we're using are creating more of the same is a challenge for creatives because there's no distribution without some of these infrastructures that already exist. It's hard to get your song out if you're not on Spotify or SoundCloud or these other platforms, Apple. And yeah. So the challenge as a creative is how do I protect my intellectual property without distribution? Because if nobody sees it, nobody can steal it, but nobody can buy it either.
The challenge for creatives is that they are going out of business. And the thing is, I'm here because it's us versus the corporations. And we're going to have to do a thinking out loud about the value of small businesses versus corporations, et cetera, et cetera. I need to check that I'm right in doing this, thinking this. The number of small businesses is going up, but we are increasingly under threat, I think. The danger here is, without wanting to be too dramatic, but obviously making this interesting for people, is artificial intelligence is killing art. And I think that is going to be the title of this video, because what it's doing is it's basically drawing a line and saying we are going to leverage the entirety of human creation that has been shared with the internet for the profit of a single corporation at the expense of everyone who's created this stuff. And we're going to do this for no good reason other than we can. So that is literally it. Why would anyone ever write a word and put it on the internet ever again? Why would anyone ever create a piece of art and put it on the internet ever again? Why would anyone ever create a piece of music and put it on the internet ever again? If basically your creativity is just being leveraged by a corporation for profit. So this is the real danger that I see, is that this is the end of creativity. People will just stop creating, and people will get what you've alluded to already, the sense that because they come up with a good prompt, they're somehow being creative when you're not. You are not Nick Cave because you say, make a song like Nick Cave. You are not Michelangelo because you say create a piece of art in the style of Michelangelo. Now, here, let's go to the next thing because I think we are smashing this. We're having a conversation I want to. So I went and I Googled art quotes. Oh, this isn't quite right. Can I? Creativity quotes or art quotes. This isn't going to be quite right. Okay, so this is what people have said about creativity. So this is the value. This is maybe what it is that the AI is costing us because it's going after art. So Einstein said, creativity is seeing what others see and thinking what no one else ever thought. Now, the thing for me with that is that's exactly what AI can't do. Do you know what I mean? That is exactly what it can't do. Is it can't actually think what no one else has ever thought. This is the value of art. According to Pablo Picasso, art is the elimination of the unnecessary. Artificial intelligence can't do this. You know, it can't do this. You use a glass mirror to see your face. You use works of art to see your soul. Now, I remember when I was 17 years old sitting in a bedsit listening to David Bowie on the music center that had this huge red radio dial on the front, and that was the only light in the room, and my mind was blown. You know, I was experiencing my soul. I would argue, and I'm not qualified to know, but I would argue that there isn't a piece of music that has been created that does that since, I don't know, the 90s. So there's more. So the point of this is a creative life is an amplified life. It's a bigger life, a happier life, an expanded life, and a hell of a lot more interesting life. So this is the issue. This is the issue. This is what it's costing us. This is the yang to everyone's excitement of, oh, I couldn't have a picture of precisely what I wanted in my presentation before, so now I can because of Mid-Journey. Or, oh, it was really, really hard work coming up with 1,000 words of text about, I don't know, pencil sharpeners before, but now it's not. Do you know what I mean? So it seems to me that that convenience, that laziness, which brings us to marketers, is what's heralding in this new thing. And the cost is art.
It's the cost of our soul.
Title. The cost of artificial intelligence is art.
Yes. So now let me pose this question. So if you have, because this is evasive in stock images, this is evasive in artwork, this is going to be invasive in music, literature. Every piece of creative outcomes are going to be impacted by this technology. And I think we can all agree that that's potentially the exposure we're looking at based on this conversation. Would you agree with that?
I wouldn't say impacted. I would say demolished is what I would say. I mean,
okay. So let me pose this question though. So just like the original art of an artist, ink, pastels, whatever it happens to be, the actual original, will that increase in value or decrease in value as a result of the market manipulation of AI creativity being exposed by prompt engineers?
I would say what's going to happen is at the very top of the tree, the insanity around fine art investments, Van Gogh's going for tens of millions of dollars and all those things, that's going to become ever more concentrated. Okay, so people with stupid money are still going to spend stupid money on very rare pieces of art. The issue is everything from just below the top of the tree down to the roots is completely consumed and nobody benefits from that. And I don't think it would have been an important consideration of an appreciation of art previously that artists were being fed through their art. It's a work, it's a miracle that anyone manages to feed themselves as an artist, I would say, already. But now that opportunity is just being taken away, I think, for 99.8%. I like to make up a statistic of artists. It's going to go away. So I would say that it makes the casual, what's the word, compulsive art purchase much less likely, because there was always a compromise in that. It doesn't quite go with my room. It isn't quite what I want to. It isn't. Do you know what I mean? That compulsive purchase is going to go away, and the artists that live off those compulsive purchases are going to be out of work.
Just think of every artist or a piece of art in every hotel that you've ever visited. There's artwork everywhere, but it's not fine art. It's industrial art. However, somebody painted that, somebody produced that, somebody printed that and created that. And now,
more importantly,
that whole industry will change.
100%. So it's just what AI is doing, I think, in terms of music, in terms of art, and in terms of copy, is it is just taking away that whole raft that maybe didn't do, that aren't the Nick Caves. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's because now, as a marketer, as a content producer, I'm thinking this is great. It pained me when I produced videos that are interesting, videos that needed music, that I couldn't use the music that I really wanted to use. Well, now I can just produce something in the style of that song and have it. And it pains me when I have to put a presentation together and I can't find quite the image I need. Well, now I can just create it. And it pains me when I have to write copy about aluminium. It pains me. Do you know what I mean? Now I don't need to do it anymore. But that convenience, the cost of that convenience, is art. That is what's going on. And let's go to the next video. I mean, I've got one more thing that I want, another quote, which is: scientists, humanists, and art lovers alike value art not just for its beauty, but also, maybe it's easier if I move us down a little bit, not for its beauty, but also for its social and epistemic importance. That is, for its communicative nature, its capacity to increase one's self-knowledge and encourage personal growth, and its ability to challenge our schemas and preconceptions. Like, positive change comes through art is the thing, and this is the cost. Anyway, what business does any of this have being on a marketing channel? Let's have a look, because I think it does. So this is a video called "Will Artificial Intelligence Take My Marketing Job?" And the answer isn't going to surprise anyone.
So I've done probably 50 or 60 talks on AI over the last 2 years. And the audience always wants to know, like, oh my gosh, am I going to lose my job? So what I tell people is, like, no one can look out 5 years from now and start truly accurately predicting the impact on jobs. Like, anybody who claims
you
that
don't have to look out 5 years. You can see this is impacting people's jobs right now. Not marketers necessarily, but people's jobs.
One way or the other is just guessing. Maybe an educated guess, but they're just guessing because the technology moves so fast. It's primarily intended to augment our knowledge and capabilities. I think, generally speaking.
Right, and I want to argue with that. I don't think it's primarily, what's the word? Its primary intention is to augment our knowledge and capabilities. I think its primary intention is to increase profits, to make money, I think, is the primary intention. So let's just get that cleared up.
I think, generally speaking, we can all agree that that's mostly what it's designed to do. It's meant to
I don't agree.
Take very time-intensive, data-driven manual tasks and automate those where we can, in the hopes then that marketers will spend more time being creative, being strategic, being empathetic, considering the emotions and the implications of the actions we take. In theory, that's where it's going to go. I do worry. I think there's a reality that many of the organizations racing ahead are publicly traded companies that have responsibilities to their shareholders. And while we can talk about the goal of making this enrich people's lives and careers, there's always going to be a reality that if there's a way to intelligently automate things that previously required humans, they might not talk about it in the public, but behind closed doors, they're trying to find a way to become more efficient, because if they don't, their competitors will. So I just look at it as it's a critical conversation that we have and that we illuminate, because otherwise I think we might get into a place where 3 to 5 to 7 years down the road, we do see more automation than maybe we wanted to in the process, and we lose some of the human side of the brand. So do you guys think about that?
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
And then there's this piece from Forbes talking about AI won't replace marketers. It will make them more valuable, which was in June 2022. So it's completely outdated now, but this talks about the fact that this is all data driven. And one thing that computers are really good at is assessing data. There's a piece that we're going to talk about with Melanie Farmer today on the news about how Facebook are saying that they're driving 32% increases in conversions through their AI-driven campaigns. The thing is, I think this is a marketing issue because all of these things exist so that people can sell more shit, businesses can sell more shit. And that's basically what's going on. And the cat's out of the bag. Maybe there's nothing we can do. The horse has bolted. There's nothing we can do about it, maybe. But I think as marketers, we need to think about how lazy we are. There's already issues in automation and marketing. Think about how lazy we are and how much society will have to pay for that laziness because of the cost of me not being able to come up with a better copy about aluminium, or me not having exactly the right image I want for my presentation, or me not having exactly the music or being allowed to use exactly the music I want to use in my video is art, then that should be a much more important consideration rather than this is amazing. Do you know what I mean? And we should welcome this with open arms.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a scary opportunity to think about if it all takes over and it becomes corporate. The thing that struck a chord with me when we were playing that video, though, is also another industry that's going to be impacted or should be impacted is the $1 trillion university educational system, because there's no way that books and classes and courses can keep up with the amount of information that is being produced and delivered in an economic method, any way, shape, or form. And you cannot keep up with that in a university in order to teach viable topics that are happening right now today, and they're emerging. So some of these things may need to be disrupted by AI, and some of these things may need to be controlled, because think of the artists in Spotify. If your stream gets played, you get a percentage of that revenue. How can we relate that? And it's not a lot, and it's tragic that it's not more. And I could see that same kind of model being applied to physical art and, stock images, all of the things we're talking about, and becoming a revenue stream for, if their plan and their objective is to create more money, create more revenue for this platform, it should be a shared revenue from the backs of all of the contributors that have been there and contributed. So that's another thought that, might want to be positioned in the conversation.
Yeah. And arguably, this might be the Napster in the coal mine. Do you know what I mean? This might be they gave everything away and then they found a model. But arguably, the model became Spotify and other streaming services, which haven't been particularly good, I don't think, for artists. And the one thing I would challenge what you're saying is, there is a real issue for academia in this, which is if I can produce a 5,000-word essay in 3 minutes using Chat GPT, why would I do anything else?
It's already been an issue in university. It's already happened. It's already evolved.
It's already happening. So, 100%. Yeah. And they claim, of course, they have to claim that they know what's AI and what's not. But I don't see how they possibly can. There are these AI checkers. There have been plagiarism checkers. So these tools exist. But that is an issue. But what I would say is, the one thing I would challenge with what you're saying is, it's not information that's being produced. it's information that's being regurgitated. So the real cost for marketers is that it's just going to get noisier with the same stuff. It's just going to get more noisy, more bland. It's going to be harder than ever to stand out, to get people's attention. It's going to be harder than ever to get people's trust, because how do you trust if this thing is original or not original? Or, it's like, I mean, I've already got an issue where I don't speak to customers anymore, but they'll say, I read a blog and it said to me to do this thing. It's like, well, the person who wrote that blog probably walked into that business as an apprentice about 20 minutes ago and was told, write a blog about this thing. Do you know what I mean? It's not like, and now that is the foundation for what Chat GPT is telling you.
Yeah. Yeah. And they may not even be employed by the company. A lot of ghostwriters and people in industry, they write blogs for other companies. So
yes, 100%. So I think we need to put your pirate sign back on. I'm thinking out loud. We really should. Now, I might sound like the person in the 1920s who said that trains make you go insane. But I think we should be really carefully thinking about, we've seen, there's a yin and there's a yang. And for every good, for every pro, there's a con. And for every benefit, there's a cost or a risk. And I think marketers should be thinking, I mean, you can see immediately it's not going to make your life any easier in the medium term, If you are churning out content, blogs, whatever, then everyone else is. The whole thing just becomes noisier. It just becomes more messy. I think it makes marketers' jobs, perceivably makes marketers' jobs more difficult. And we should, if the whole point of these things is to make more money, is to sell shit, then we should be thinking, I think, carefully about how we use these things, and whether Chat GPT becomes a necessary step in the creative process for actual creatives. I mean, do we even have an option now as marketers but to be engaging with this stuff and using this stuff? I suppose it comes back to what we were both saying at the beginning, which is this is a foundational step.
It's a tool in the toolbox. That's what it is, Martin. It's a tool in the toolbox. And the people that harness it, adapt it, and utilize its best possible outcomes will float to the top, just like they've always done. The best artists will learn their craft. They will learn the tools. They will take the good, they will release the bad, and they will be the cream of the crop. And you'll notice the huge gap between the best and the worst. And the danger in that with AI is that as it continues to compute and analyze, the topics and the content will become narrower and narrower, because I think the best content will actually be aggregated to be shown first or be put to the top of the list. So that's the danger that I think is some of the, it's just like search engines. You look for the search and you only see 10 of the top responses, but there's 10,000 pages out there with the same topic potentially that you could research. So you're going to have to really get good at doing your craft, learning the tools, and adapting to the new environment. And the people that get ahead are still the people that are going to get ahead.
And do the work, I think, and apply actual creativity. I think that's true. Search engines are the next thing you and I are going to be thinking out loud about. Thinking about the end of the internet.
The end of the internet.
Is this how the internet ends? Is going to be the topic, the title of the next thinking out loud that we do, because
I think that's a great topic, though.
It's a great topic. I'm only ever going to come to you with great topics, man. This has been a great topic. I think we have successfully navigated our way to the end of this without coming to a conclusion, which was the point. Other than
no predictions either.
No predictions. No.
No real predictions.
Yeah, little predictions. I mean, we can see. I think what I'm seeing is that, surprisingly to me, because of what's his name, Novell. I've still got his name here. Yuval Noah Harari, his prediction was that creatives would be safe. And it appears to me like even before drivers, I expected to see drivers be the first to fall. It seems that it is creatives. But use this as a foundation, I think, rather than as a means to an end, because you will just fall into the mire of everything, and it will always be hard to differentiate yourself because you're not differentiated if you are just taking this as the end result. Do you want to have the last word?
I think that we can continue this conversation, and I think we should come back in probably intervals, measure our results looking backwards and seeing what the progress is, because change is constant. It's the only thing that we know is that change will continue to be constant, and we need to catch up on it, keep track of it. So
100%.
Look forward to it.
Change is the human condition. That's what my lecturer on my politics degree told me in 1994 or whenever it was. He didn't tell me, he told 120 of us on the first day of our course. Change is the human condition. And I suppose, it's our ability to adapt and thrive and exist with that change that makes us uniquely human. I'm sorry, I offered you the last word and then I took it.
All good, brother. I love these conversations. So
I love these conversations too. Excellent. Okay, so we got to the end. So all we need to do now is remind people that if they haven't yet, if they have found this interesting or useful, I don't know how you would take use out of this, but if you have found it interesting or useful, now is the second best time to like, share, subscribe, and comment, because that will give us, me and Russ, what do we need? The motivation to continue on this epic journey. Thank you for watching.
Take care.
Thank you for taking the opportunity to check out this episode of Thinking Out Loud. If you found this interesting and useful, then this is the thing that YouTube thinks you're going to like most, and this is the most recent thing that we've posted. If you haven't yet and you could take a second to like, share, subscribe, and comment, then that will give us the motivation to continue on this epic journey.